Alright, let's talk about it. The G word, disaster level god. Because I think that this is one of the most important aspects of One Punch Man, simply because it represents the end-all be-all of power within this world. Aside from Saitama, of course, although he could fit into the category of disaster level god, giving its surface level definition, but I think Saitama kind of has his own disaster level Saitama, if you will. So aside from its importance, it's also one of the most mysterious things in the series and is hardly ever touched on. Not even in the webcomic to this day is it really explored. It's actually only ever mentioned twice. Like, the phrase disaster level god is only said twice in the entire manga so far. First by Genos when he is explaining disaster levels to Saitama, and second when Garo is just praising Shibawa at Sitch's End of the World underground meeting. There's also some other instances where like monsters will claim that they are disaster level god, but this is kind of tongue-in-cheek. I'm mainly just going off of like the main instances of this being used as a narrative piece. Not even when Sitch is talking about Shibawa's prophecy does he say disaster level god. He simply just says something worse than a major earthquake or monster of threat level demon or dragon is going to happen. So with all that being said, this of course means that there has never been a monster classified as disaster level god. Not in the series, not in the data books, and not even by one himself, but we'll get into that later. So now let's get into the actual definition of disaster level god, and that is of course a threat to humanity. So that's it. There's nothing really more to it that we get, but this doesn't necessarily mean that having the ability to bust a planet makes you disaster level god. There seems to be much more to this definition and having a monster classified as it than just simply having the ability to do that. Because you might be thinking that Boros should be disaster level god, considering that his collapsing star roaring cannon can destroy the earth, but evidently this is still not enough to be classified as god level, because in the data book, Boros is just simply stated as dragon. He's not god or anything like that. And it goes further when one himself says that Boros' disaster level is dragon or above. And this of course also gave birth to the above dragon class in itself. And if you would like to know more about that, please check out my video, What is Above Dragon? But there is also more to the definition of disaster levels than what we get on the surface, because if simply being a threat to humanity was enough to give you the classification of God, then I suppose monsters like Beefcake and Vaccine Man could be disaster level god, because if they went unchecked and were able to overcome whatever heroes were going against them, they would easily be threats to humanity. So disaster levels are further defined as being an aggregate measurement of danger, taking into consideration the monster's damage capabilities, aggressiveness, and difficulty of extermination, as well as some other unnamed factors. So going off of these variables, we can see how certain monsters gain their disaster levels with not just necessarily being able to destroy cities and whatnot. So for example, Deep Sea King. He is pretty much the definitive demon of the series. We see that his damage capabilities allow him to destroy buildings and defeat S-class heroes like Puri Puri Prisoner. He's also very aggressive, but his difficulty of extermination is especially high because he is intelligent and he is very skilled for a monster. But when we go to Dragon, we see that all of these variables are amplified immensely, because then we start seeing guys like Goketsu out there who make Deep Sea King look kind of weak. And if we go even further than that, we see guys like Boros who take all of these aggregated measurements to the highest level we have seen so far, and definitely make guys even like Goketsu look weak in comparison. But as we have established, not even Boros is disaster level god, so that means in order to attain that level, you need to be even greater than Boros in all of these measurements. So think about that for a second. We've seen Boros at his peak in his meteoric burst form is definitely above Dragon, and likely the strongest villain we have seen in the entire series. So you need to be even stronger than that to even begin to attain disaster level God. And let us also remember that the collapsing star roaring cannon, which is the only seen planet busting feat outside of Saitama's punches, is all of Boros' energy put into an attack. So this is essentially his coup de grace. This is like his final end all be all thing. So maybe that means that that is simply not enough to establish him as disaster level God, meaning that these God level beings out there can probably bust planets with like their standard attacks. So now that we have built the foundation for disaster level God and have established that you need to truly be outrageous in order to attain this level, let's talk about if there are actually some characters out there who could fit this bill. So I personally have only given disaster level God as a rating to 2 characters in my How Strong Is video. So the first being King, and if you would like to know why that is, please check out my video, How Strong Is King. And second, I mildly put it on Metal Knight. I didn't really definitively label him as that, but I simply just put it out there that it is a chance that he could be based off of his potential. So outside of them and my own personal ratings, there is only one character in the series so far who is vaguely alluded to possibly being disaster level God, and that is none other than Blast himself, the S-Class Rank 1 hero. So this is kind of talked about in chapter 85 when Sitch is talking to the Hero Association executives. And he's hyping up Blast and he says, you know, we can't tell him to do anything. He's only going to perform acts of heroism on his own free will. And we're giving him special treatment just because he's such a boss. Then he's like, however, when humanity is in peril and must be saved, he will surely take action. So this could be taken many ways, but the way that I see it is that Blast is deeming himself strong enough to take on a disaster level God threat. Because Sitch says when humanity is in peril and must be saved, and this is pretty much the definition of disaster level God. And we also haven't seen anything declared God level yet. We also haven't seen Blast come out of wherever he is hiding. He didn't even come out for Boros. So I'm assuming that Blast thinks that everything else, you know, disaster level dragon, whatever else, can be taken care of by the S-Class heroes. But when the G word is dropped, that's when he feels that he needs to come out, because he also probably feels that he is the only person capable of taking on such a threat, because we can also assume that he doesn't know who Saitama is yet. Meaning that if he is capable of doing this, it is very likely that he himself is disaster level God in strength. And one more thing, disaster level God is depicted as being a phoenix in the anime, and people put a lot of weight into this and assume that it has a deeper meaning than it actually does, and there's theories to it and whatnot. But guys, honestly, in my opinion, this doesn't really mean much, because this is only shown in the anime. It's not in the manga, meaning that this is how Madhouse / Bones just wanted to depict disaster level God. It's just a nice, cool aesthetic that they wanted to put on it. Nothing more, nothing less. Also, let us remember that they don't even talk about disaster level Wolf in the anime, so, you know. So now, just for funsies, let's talk about the possible disaster level gods that we have already seen in the series. So the first being the Mosquito from chapter 5 and 6. This is, for all intents and purposes, definitely disaster level god. I mean, it's faster than Saitama, and it's able to survive a strike from him, no problem. Also, it's a gag moment for sure. It's just showing the struggle of Saitama that he has, which is similar to the everyday man. It's also correlating to the inner monologue that he has in this scene when he's talking about how nothing really challenges him anymore and how everyone is essentially equating to the level of him squashing a mosquito. And also the dream iteration of the Subterranean King. In my opinion, this guy is definitely disaster level god. I mean, if his subterranean army is strong enough to push Saitama to him earnestly trying and actually giving him a thrill in their fight, also drawing blood from him, he is definitely disaster level god in himself. I mean, we don't see him fight Saitama, of course, but I think this is heavily implied. But also let us remember that this is just a dream, so he has about as much bearing on the actual series as the Mosquito does. So that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you think about the G word in the comments. Who do you think is going to be it in the future? And have we already legitimately seen one? Maybe? I don't know. I didn't talk about webcomic stuff in this video either. I don't really think it's necessary, and I could always talk about it in another video. But still, feel free to let me know what you think about this stuff. And if you liked the video, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon. It starts at $2 and it gives you access to a Q&A. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.